Hello everyone, welcome to our webinar Visualizing Big Money with Big Data. I'm Felipe Hoffa, a Google Cloud Developer Advocate, and
I'm Raj Ricky, Product Manager for Cloud Platforms at Bitnami.
yes, and today we're going to be visualizing big money with big data. So let's get started. This is live, so if anyone has questions, please add them as YouTube comments. We will be answering them. And if you're watching this in the future, well, hi there. Let's get started with this. I have some data that's super interesting from the elections. It's all of the donations that have been made open by the FEC. And then OpenSecrets.org takes this data, collects it, annotates it, and leaves it as open data on their website. They allowed me to share this data with you. So I have it loaded on BigQuery. And I have this table individual 16 with almost 5 million rows and almost 2 gigabytes of data that we would love to visualize. That sounds good?
Awesome.
Awesome. So with BigQuery, it's really, really easy to start writing SQL queries. You don't need to install anything. You just need to access BigQuery. And you can write simple queries or complex queries like this. Here I'm looking at how much money each recipient got. So simple SQL query, 5 million rows. We get the results. We get recipients. And now, if I want to visualize these results, I will need other tools. There are plenty of tools, but one of my favorites is
Redash.
Redash, exactly. And to install it, Raj here is going to show us the best way, super simple way to get it running on Google Cloud.
Awesome. So Redash is an open source visualization and dashboarding tool. Bitnami is a partner of Google Cloud Platform, and we're going to show you how you can launch a Bitnami Redash image into your Google Cloud Platform account. So first, let's talk a little bit about what our setup and architecture looks like for this webinar. We're going to be using Redash, as I mentioned, to visualize the data that we're querying with BigQuery. Bitnami is a company that packages mostly open source applications and delivers them for customers into their configured cloud. In this case, we're going to use Google Cloud Platform. Some of the advantages of using Bitnami are that we keep all of our images up to date and patched. They are cross-platform, so you can take them down locally. You're also able to use them anywhere else, other platforms as you like. And the other important thing to know is that Redash is free. So once it provisions into your Google Cloud Platform account, you'll be able to use that and SSH in as you like, and it'll show up just as a VM. So
I have to say, I really love your diagram, how it shows that we're going to get elections data from OpenSecrets.org and load it into BigQuery. We're going to read, thanks to Bitnami, we're going to get Redash running on Compute Engine.
Correct.
And we're going to get both connected.
Right. Hey, Felipe, could you tell us a little bit about BigQuery?
Yeah, so BigQuery is my favorite tool to analyze data. You can analyze terabytes of data in seconds. You can share data with other people, or you can keep it totally private with the top security standards if that's what you want. And it's really, really easy to get started, as we just saw.
Awesome. Well, I'm excited to take a look at the flexibility of Google Cloud Platform.
Oh, let's start our free trial. So everyone gets $300 for free for 60 days if you start your free trial with Google Cloud. And then you can start trying all of these products, platforms for free.
Yeah, and I think with BigQuery, you're really only charged against the queries that you use, right? Not the.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
So with BigQuery, you don't need to pay for any kind of servers, hours. With BigQuery, you just pay for how much data you store and how much data each of your queries queries. But if you are not doing anything, you don't need to pay hourly or anything. There's no servers to speak of. It's just BigQuery data you.
Awesome. Really cool. So why don't we kind of get going here and take a look at how we get started for this webinar. So the first thing you want to do is, after you've created your Google Cloud Platform account, we're going to jump into the Bitnami Launchpad for Google Cloud Platform. This is a catalog of all the open source applications that you have for Bitnami. We're going to search for Redash. We have it here. Hit launch. And once we hit launch, it's going to take us to the new virtual machine page. And we're going to go ahead and use this configuration to just kind of jump in and create. You can toggle the server sizes and go up if you like for more compute or higher disk size. And I already kind of have one here spun up. So there we go. Once you hit create, you are able to see the application here, and this is some of the application information. We can go to the app. This is the info to log in to the application. We're going to do that here. And boom. We've got a running Redash instance.
We have a running Redash. That's perfect. Awesome. Now let's use it.
Yeah, great. So, I mean, obviously we want to use Redash in our existing Google Cloud Platform account, but it's not going to be that helpful unless it's connected to a BigQuery data set, right?
Yes. So how do we connect the Redash you just launched to BigQuery?
Great question. So let's jump in. So we're going to hit data sources inside of Redash and go to new data source. And that's going to automatically populate BigQuery as the first item here.
So it seems like you can use Redash with multiple data sources.
Great. Yeah, you're absolutely right. So we've got, there's MySQL, there's Postgres, there's Graphite, there's even Google Spreadsheet in here. That's really cool. But obviously we need to authenticate in. So let's generate a JSON key file. And this is, again, our Google Cloud Platform console. And I actually have the VM running here so you can see the activity. What I'm going to do is I'm going to jump into permissions. It might be IAM or admin for some of you live at home. And we're going to create a service account. Let's just do Redash-E. Generate a private key. Boom.
New service account.
Awesome. OK, so here it is. And this is the project that we launched it into. And we want the project ID as well as the JSON key file. So here we go. We're going to take this and put this in here. And we'll just call it Redash BigQuery example.
Excellent.
Saved.
Saved. And now your Redash is connected to BigQuery.
Yes.
And if you share that Redash with me, in fact, you already created an account for me in your server.
Did.
Excellent. I can use it on my notebook. And I can just start writing queries. For example, I can paste the query I wrote here in Redash. My project name is FHBigQuery. I have my datasets open secrets and the individuals database. And this query should bring data in, but it didn't.
I think we got an error.
Yeah, I got an error because that dataset is not shared publicly. I need to share it explicitly, in this case with your service account key. And I can do that by copying the username of this service account. Let me copy paste this and bring it to the BigQuery side, where I can look at my dataset, share the dataset, and I can choose to share my data with an individual or organization or Google group, in this case with your service account.
Awesome.
I save these changes. Now it's shared. And the readers that you just launched can look at my private data.
Awesome.
Now, if anyone else wants to query this data, I will make this dataset public just to make sure that anyone else can look at it too. So I can share the dataset. I can add all authenticated users can view, add, save changes, and now you can all run the same queries.
Awesome. Well, let's dig in. I'm really excited. It sounds like we've got a lot of data to dig into and a lot of queries. Why don't we take a look at some of the stuff that we've got?
Yeah, so for example, I created this query in our shared Redash.
Okay.
And you can look at your computer now.
Awesome.
All your queries.
Let's take a look. So.
Oh, I need to give it a name. Let me give it a name, money. Now it's saved. Now reload.
Let's do this now. Boom.
Perfect. See, now we are sharing queries. We can do, for example, I can add a visualization. Let me add a new visualization here where I can get by candidate, by the recipient ID, the column, and now we're looking at how much money each candidate got.
Awesome. And if I refresh, I should be able to
Do you get my visualizations?
see that. Awesome.
Now we're sharing a chart. But we want to share more. We want to share dashboards. And for that, last night I created a dashboard in a different instance of Redash. Let me show you what I got. Let me show you my open secrets dashboard.
Now, just a disclaimer, we're all developers here. We're not political pundits. So there's definitely insights in the data, but we're going to stay objective.
Yes, let's explore data, but let's not get very political here. Okay, so let me show you what I got here. My first visualization that I got here is how many rows we have per month. This is basically taking a look at my whole data set, the 5 million rows. We can see that there was a big jump in rows in June, then it dropped in July, and then it has been going up since. But this shows me all kinds of donations. And so then I created this other chart just to look at the presidential candidates.
Yeah, I guess what I'm selfishly interested in is to see how much each candidate raised per month.
Oh, so you want to see the money that each candidate got?
Yes.
Okay, so here in the left side, I got the real money that we collected by month. And then this is one of my favorite queries. We're looking at all of the candidates and how much money they got per month added by month. And we can see the results.
Awesome.
If you want to see the query, just to see how I made this happen.
You just hit show source once you click in, and it pops up all the SQL. That's awesome.
Yes, so this query is a little more complicated than the previous one, but it has the same concepts. First, I'm looking at the month here, the month part of the date. I'm looking at the recipient, and I'm looking at adding up all the amount. But then I'm doing a join with my list of candidates.
Probably you have to in order to make the previous chart make sense, right?
Exactly. So this is where I get their names instead of the IDs. And I'm looking only for candidates running by president.
Felipe, when you make changes on this SQL query, does it show up on the chart in real time, or what do you have to do? Okay.
Let me show you, for example. Here I'm doing a cleanup of all the candidates that didn't get enough donations and all the months that are stragglers. But for example, if I get rid of those filters,
just commenting
and I run my query again, we get a completely new updated visualization. Ta-da.
Awesome.
And this chart really shows you why I did that cleanup.
There's a lot of candidates in there.
Yeah, we want to get rid of some candidates.
I guess Barack Obama even raised some money. Look.
Yeah.
Interesting.
That's how data works.
Okay.
It's always good to have some cleanup filters.
Okay.
And that's why I love using SQL. I can just start digging into this.
Awesome.
Let's go back to the dashboard. Any questions that you would like answered?
Well, I'm interested to see how much the candidates raised per month, but on both sides, right? So you got the Democratic candidates and then you got the Republican candidates, right?
I have the perfect query for you.
Okay.
Basically, I took the same data.
Okay.
And on one side, I put the Democrats. On the other side, I put the Republicans.
Okay.
And in this way, we can see more clearly how each candidate progressed during the year.
So if you see here, this is interesting because it looks like Hillary Clinton really started out strong in terms of aggregate value of donations.
Yeah, do you see this little yellow one?
Yeah.
That's Bernie Sanders that started growing donations.
Wow, up and to the right. Look at that.
Up and to the right, yeah.
And the last month, March, they've I guess the last bar kind of eclipsed the other one.
Yes, like
20 million versus 19. That's interesting.
According to the data I have here, Bernie Sanders got more money in March than Hillary Clinton. And he started really, really slow. So it's pretty cool to see.
What about the Republican candidates?
Oh, we have way more candidates here.
Yeah.
There's one big standout donation month, June, for Jeb Bush.
Yeah, I must have raised a lot of money then.
At that time. Not the...
Yeah, the other
not
months.
thereafter.
So it was like, okay, so there's Jeb, and then all the way on the right, we have this green bar here that stands out. Who's that?
And that is Ted Cruz.
Huh.
Not in the race anymore, but yes, he was really good at raising money.
Yeah, that's really interesting. Really interesting. And sorry, one last question. Where's Donald Trump?
Donald Trump, he's here. He's has a very small green bar.
Oh, okay.
Because he did not focus on raising money.
I guess that kind of makes sense. Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. Interesting. What's this next visualization? You
Okay,
have?
so here I added up how much money each candidate collected. We can see that Hillary Clinton got more money than any other candidate. That shows here.
It does make sense with the previous data where she was raising strong too. So I guess the aggregate here on the left-hand side makes sense.
Exactly. Well, we have here 140 million for Hillary versus almost 3 million of raised money for Donald Trump. That's a huge difference.
It is a pretty big difference. What's this red line?
Oh, with this red line, I was trying to visualize what's the average donation that each candidate got.
Huh. So, like for example, if you had a lot of really small donations, then that number would be much smaller, right?
Exactly. So, for example, the average donation for Hillary is $565.
Yeah, kind of in the middle of the pack. Okay.
Versus Bernie Sanders, whose average donation is $140.
Interesting. Where's the spike? What is that all
this
about?
is Jeb Bush that
okay.
got pretty big donations when he was getting donations.
Got it. Yeah, the aggregate average value was higher. Okay, interesting.
So, yeah, next visualization.
Yeah, sure.
Industries.
Yeah, that makes sense. I do kind of want to see how it gets broken down and where they're coming from. It looks really interesting.
Yeah, so Open Secret does a good job at looking at the employer of each donor, and then they categorize this by industry. So you can start looking at what industries are donating more money to each candidate, and we can get a little visualization like this. I would love to go deeper into this, but maybe we can leave that for another webinar.
Yeah, definitely. You know what I'm really interested to see? I would really like to see the amount of money raised per candidate. That's the first one. But also compared to the number of votes, and I mean, this is the primaries, right? So the number of delegates that they got. That's the first thing. The second thing that I'm really interested to see is how much they spent per vote and per delegate.
So those are super interesting questions.
Yeah.
So you want to see of all the money they raised, how divide that by the number of votes.
Yes.
So I wrote that query already.
Okay.
And I have my visualizations here. The left side you can see the ratio of votes to money. And on the right side you can see the ratio of votes of money to delegates. What do I mean by this? Basically, for example, Bernie Sanders in Arkansas raised about $2,000, more than almost $3,000 per each vote he got.
Wow, that kind of makes sense. I mean, you know, so this is kind of reflective of the strength of the organization's fundraising and how much resources or whatever it is that they put into getting donations for that state per the number of votes that they got.
Yes. Okay. So smaller means more efficient.
Yes.
With less money, they got way more votes.
Yes.
You can see that, for example, Donald Trump raised very little money, and then he got a lot of votes.
True.
So we can really see that ratio here.
Yeah.
But what we really care about with primaries
is delegates.
Delegates. No one knows how that works.
Yeah.
But they are the ones that decide. Yes. So here are how much money each one raised per state,
delegate.
Per delegate.
Per state, per delegate.
And so just to give you a random fact point, Ted Cruz in North Carolina raised about $30,000 per each delegate that he finally got.
Wow, that's really interesting.
Yeah, and we can start going deeper into this chart and visualizations.
Let's look at expenses. That's the one I'm curious
expenses,
about.
Yeah. So instead of money donated, is how much money they spent
to get votes and then also to get delegates.
Okay, let's end up with that. Here is a very simple visualization. We take all the money that each candidate got spent. That's also open data, and then we divide it by the number of votes. Yes, Bert Carson basically spent
a lot of money.
Yeah, almost $48 per each vote he got. Hillary Clinton is at $11 per vote. Donald Trump, 27 cents per vote.
A quarter per vote, huh?
Yes.
Wow.
Basically, that's spending not much money and getting a lot of votes.
Wow.
And then, of course, you want to know delegates.
Yes. Because that's what really makes the difference, I guess, in primaries.
Yes, and again, we have something that shows that Ben Carson spent about $4.5 million for each delegate he got.
Is there a way to kind of clean this up so that we can maybe see the rest of them? It looks like this, the Ben Carson's kind of skewing the data a little bit.
Oh yes, let's edit this query. I'll show you the source of this query. Basically the same logic as before. And here I'm going to filter out Ben.
Okay.
So if a candidate is called Ben, we are filtering it out.
Okay.
And let's visualize that.
Sounds good.
Here we have it. The same chart without Ben.
Really interesting. Really interesting.
Yes. So yes, you now can see the difference.
That's amazing. So how much did what's the lowest number on there? Donald Trump?
Almost $3,000 per delegate.
Per delegate, okay.
Compared to Marco Rubio's $200,000 per delegate.
Wow.
Yeah, no, I just find so much fun just analyzing data, asking more questions.
That's amazing.
Yeah, I love playing with this data, sharing visualizations, data sets, etc.
It's I think one thing to be able to draw intelligible conclusions about where you're going to be with slicing and dicing data, but showing it on the screen and visualizing it in a way that is accessible to a lot of people is really useful.
It's really, really fun, and everyone can do it. BigQuery is open for everyone. Come and analyze data. Everyone has a free terabyte to analyze every month. And with the free trial, you can launch your own Redash server.
And use your Bitnami images in your Google Cloud Platform account.
Yes, and launch any other kind of open source software like
WordPress, Drupal, and the like. So
exactly.
Awesome.
So thank you very much for coming here today.
Thank you for joining us.
Yes, please stay curious, and let's see you in the next video.
See you in the cloud.
Excellent.
Thanks.